Hello, everyone, and welcome to PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am your host. And I am here with Sherry Strothers. She is a realtor and so much more. Welcome to the PR Connection Show, Sherry.
Thanks for having me, Guy.
So I mentioned that you're a realtor. What got you into this industry?
Well, like many people, COVID forced us to take a look at what we were doing. I was locked up here in Las Vegas because I relocated shortly before the pandemic. And as I was locked in the house watching TV all day, I started to reassess what I was doing and why, because I retired from the Navy in 2016, and then I had endeavored into motivational speaking. But during COVID, there were no opportunities for that. And so as I reassessed my life, I looked at the opportunities that real estate presented. It allowed me independence, freedom, and the ability to still help people. So it was the perfect course for me to take.
Yeah, it's interesting how situations will move you in a different direction, something that might be seen as a negative thing, which COVID obviously has really had a negative impact in certain ways. But it seems like you took a potentially negative situation and turned it into something positive.
I'd like to think so. I mean, I feel that if you don't find something positive in a negative experience, then it was a wasted opportunity to learn. And so although there were a lot of bad, and the fact that people are still dying from COVID is horrible. But if you didn't take some time to reassess yourself and what makes you important, what's important to you, what makes you wake up in the morning, I just don't understand how you can't reevaluate your life during something as turbulent as this pandemic.
And so you got your real estate license and you got started. You've never done this before. What's it been like getting started as a realtor?
Well, Guy, I'm going to tell you one thing. It has been humbling because real estate, being a real estate agent is hard work. It's not easy work at all, but it's so satisfying. I find it rewarding. But there was a large learning curve. And so now the seeds that I planted 4, 5, 6 months ago, they're starting to manifest. And so now I'm starting to reap the rewards of my hard work.
And so what was that like? I know, like you said, you were planting seeds. What have you been doing to build your real estate business?
Well, having moved here before the pandemic, I didn't get an opportunity to establish myself, get to know people, or have a big sphere of influence. So I've had to work backwards forward. So what I've been doing is as much media coverage as I can get, what I can afford. I've bought a lot of Facebook ads. I have met a lot of people. I go to the grocery store. I wear my badge everywhere I go. I do a lot of marketing and searching for those opportunities, especially in social media.
And you had mentioned spheres of influence and how being new in a town really affects that because you haven't created the relationships necessarily that sometimes can cultivate business. What have you done to create a sphere of influence here in town? I know you've kind of got some niches that are specific to your background that have been very helpful for you.
That's exactly right. I've moved towards the specialization of military real estate. With Nellis Air Force Base being right here, Creech Air Force Base, there's a large military presence. And since I've been in real estate, I've learned some of the things that I didn't know when I've purchased homes. Some of the things I paid for with my VA loan that I wasn't supposed to pay for. And there are people that take advantage of the military people because you don't always know what all of these things are because you're constantly moving. And so I've made it my mission to become a specialist in that particular area. So I've been working on a presence at the base at Nellis. I've created a page for the military real estate here in Las Vegas, and I am plastered all over the internet as a military specialist. So it's actually starting to benefit me.
Yes, definitely, because competition is steep, Sherry. As you know, there are thousands of realtors
Yeah.
here in Las Vegas. And to make yourself stand out in the crowd, a couple of things that you talked about stood out for me. You talked about having a big presence on the internet, specifically doing things with social media, which, even though there's a lot of people who are on social media, taking opportunities to make yourself stand out there are really important. But niching, the way that you talked about, with a familiar audience, and maybe you can speak more upon that. What makes you uniquely qualified as a realtor to deal with the military crowd? Specifically, I know you had talked about Nellis Air Force Base. What do you know that would be appealing to a potential buyer in that demographic?
Well, Guy, that's actually a pretty good question. I served 30 years in the Navy on active duty, primarily in the administrative realm. Human resources was particularly my field of expertise. So I dealt with all of the moving, the discharges, the administrative functions, even the legal problems when people got in trouble. And when you were getting out of the Navy, coming into the Navy, you had to come through my office every time. So I am intimately familiar with what it takes for us to move, how to move our families, the the complications of us moving, that sense of urgency that you need when people are on a limited time period. And I apologize for that. I am always working, but it's still doing that. Stop it. So my phone rings with my telephone. But having moved 17 or 18 times myself as a single mom on active duty, I know how important it is to have somebody on the other end of that that understands what you're trying to do and to make things as easy as possible for you to move, find a place to get settled, get your kids into school, and all of those things. So I am uniquely qualified for this particular job.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were talking about in terms of moving. A lot of people might not be able to relate to that, but you, with your unique experiences, and of course, having served for so many years, really understanding the mentality and the psyche of your client, is it's powerful. And it's I think it's really important that you find a lane to get into, as you mentioned, that fits you, where you really can relate to potential clients.
Guy, I actually want to thank you as well, because meeting you has been one of the wonderful things that has happened since I became an agent. You've given me great advice and helped me really cultivate that military experience and put it into place with the real estate. I knew that those two things should have been together, but I could never figure out how to marry them. And you've done a great job of steering me. So I really want to thank you for that.
Right. Well, hey, that's what we do at the PR and marketing company, Classic Communications. It's all about contributing to your success. And one of the reasons why I really enjoy working with you, Sherry, is that you have, of course, you're running a business. You mentioned that you had been served in the military a long time, so you have a whole background in that area of life, and you are really pretty well set for the rest of your life because of the service that you've given to our country. And you could probably just live out the rest of your life and collect your pension and not even have to go out and do something like this. But the fact that you have other goals that are tied into being a realtor is something that I'm greatly impressed with. And maybe you want to share with our audience why are you doing this? You've already served a whole career that you could pretty much not have to get out here and all this grinding, everything that it takes to be a realtor. You're doing it voluntarily. Why are you doing this?
Well, Guy, it actually gives me purpose. I've learned that service is far more satisfying than money. And when you're in the military, you're not going to get rich. You're not going to get rich. You work hard, and you might get some recognition, but maybe not. And having retired and to see the suffering, to see how hard it is for some people that may have made a couple of choices that they can't overcome, I want to help. And even now, as a real estate agent, sometimes I get phone calls. The rental market is horrendous right now. It's almost as hard to find a place to rent as it is to find a place to buy. And I've talked to people on the phone that are possibly going to be homeless. It's frustrating to not be able to have the resources to help those people. So I've accumulated a list of rentals, social networks, and I try to pass that on as much as I can, because I'm really afraid that as this market here in Las Vegas booms, there are some people that are going to be left behind. And as part of my job as a real estate agent, I want to help some of those people. And I want to help young people that come here that are military retirees. I also want to help them get the first home, because a lot of times you don't even know that you can. So it's all about service. I enjoy service, and that is what brings me the most satisfaction.
And you had mentioned, Sherry, that this market is not very conducive to renters. Renters are the ones that are really suffering in this type of a market. And for some people, especially where we are now, with us having the Raiders are here now, and who knows how many other professional sports organizations are going to probably end up in Las Vegas. And that drives up property values.
Yes.
So for the people who already own property, they're like, bring it on, right? But for you, as you mentioned, you could get priced out if
Yes.
you don't take action now, because real estate values in Vegas are going to really be climbing. I can see that over the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah. And honestly, and I kid you not, I received a call from a young lady I spoke to about a month ago. She was looking for a rental. And of course, I don't do rentals exclusively, so I gave her some advice, and I told her, "Hey, if you have any other questions, call me." She called me yesterday. The problem she's having, she has 4 children. She's always paid her rent on time. She was renting a home. The landlord will not renew her lease because he wants to raise the rent. And so the rent is going from, I think she said it was like 13 to something like $2,000, something she cannot afford. And so her back is against the wall. She's trying to find a place that she can afford. And so yesterday we were on the phone for at least 35 minutes. I gave her as much information as I can. I did give her some places that she may be able to get into, but her clock is ticking. End of the month, she has nowhere to live. And that's just the one that I know about. That's pretty common all around the valley.
Yeah, it's very challenging for people. And again, now, Sherry, you're looking at homelessness, right? I mean, this goes beyond just not being able to qualify for to be able to rent a place. Now you're looking at, where are you going to live? I mean,
Exactly.
if you buy a house, yeah, sure, you secure it. It's your home, you own it. You got a partnership with the bank. You keep paying the bank, and you're the person in the driver's seat. But when you're in a situation where people are not renting very much, you got this rent moratorium that's still in effect. I
Yes.
mean, this is an ideal time if you can get your ducks in a row, probably to make that type of a move, and you're the person that could help facilitate that.
Yes. This is the time, if you want to buy or sell, it's great. But unfortunately, it's extremely expensive to be poor. So if you
Mhm.
come here with the dreams that, because Vegas used to be a very inexpensive place to live. I used to come here all the time myself. And people are moving here in droves, but they don't always have a plan because they think they can just get a little job on the strip and it'll be easy. And unfortunately, they're finding that they cannot afford to live here. And there is not enough safety nets here to help these people. That is the problem as well. And the fact that landlords can just bump the rent up on a person and refuse to renew their lease, there should be some protection for these people. Even now, where these people, they're charging those application fees. Those application fees to put in a rental application can range from $50 to $175. Everyone in the house that is going to live there over the age of 18 has to put that application in too. Those are non-refundable. And so there are some people that are simply collecting applications and then just choose one after accepting 15 or 20. And one man told me that he spent $3,000 just on application fees, living at Siegel Suites, almost out of money at this point. And it's a tragedy. It should be against the law. It really should.
Yeah, these predatory practices, like you mentioned, Sherry, the person is accepting applications and it becomes a cash flow stream for them. And then
Exactly.
who's to say they decide, like you said, they've already figured out who they're going to rent the apartment out to, and they're just collecting applications. That are so unethical and so
It is.
unfair.
Yes. And the people that can't afford it are the people that deal with it the most because they're the most desperate. And so the poor are constantly the victims of this predatory behavior.
And so for you, that's kind of a unique position to be in, Sherry, because here you are, you're in a for-profit business as a realtor. Obviously, you're in business to make a profit, and that's completely completely the way that it should be because of the effort that you're putting out, cultivating an audience, cultivating clients so that you can put deals together to help people and get paid at the same time. And at the same time, along with that, though, I know that you have this passion for creating more fairness, more
Right.
humanity in the way that people treat each other in this environment. And
Yeah.
that's part of what you want to do as a realtor as well, is that you want to make profits so that you can run your business, be paid for what it is that you do, but you also want to help and protect people from some of the predatory practices that are going on that aren't talked about very much.
And I feel that you can do both. Why be unethical? You can make money without ripping people off, without taking advantage of people and all that other stuff. I will not do anything to force someone into something they can't afford or to push people to do things. I'll walk away from a deal if I think it's an unethical situation. And I feel that as long as my purpose is to do good, that I'm always going to land on my feet. And all money isn't good money. So if there's something that would hurt someone, they'll have to find another real estate agent to do it with them because I'm not going to be involved in that. I'm not going to allow people to pay needless application fees and all this other stuff. I won't get as rich as I'd like to get, but so be it. My heart and my conscience will be clear.
That's right. And doing business ethically, Sherry, is its own marketing strategy. Because what happens is the word gets out about what type of a businesswoman you are, and people, they are attracted to that. People are looking for people that are going to be straight shooters, not take advantage of them. And I think if more people understood that as a business practice, just telling the truth to people, that brings you more business than conning people in a lot of ways,
Right.
because they're looking for that person out there. A lot of people are who they can know, like, and trust. We always hear about know, like, and trust. When you're
Yes.
talking about a purchase as large as buying a home, there has to be a lot of trust between a person, because for most people, that's the largest purchase that they're going to make over the course of their whole life.
That's exactly right. It is usually the single largest purchase people will make. It's a wealth building, um, and it's wealth building, and it's also something you can pass on to your children for generational wealth. It is a very important item, and more people need to be in the arena. Right now, there are a lot of investors that are buying a lot of properties, pricing people out of things. And there's a lot of abandoned and empty homes and we have all this homelessness. I mean, there should be more initiative to turn some of this stuff, some of these malls, anything, into a place where people that are looking for homes can go. Because purchasing a home is an American dream, and everyone should have that opportunity.
I agree, Sherry. And the thing is that you have to have advocates. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about on this show today is that Sherry really is an advocate in the things that she's been talking about, wanting to make people accountable for their behavior in terms of the way that they're practicing, working with renters and things like that, helping people to purchase their first home, to start to build wealth. I know you have a specific niche that you talked about, helping the military. I also know that you are very motivated to help African Americans as well with home ownership, and maybe you'd like to speak to that.
Well, now we all know the statistics, and there are not enough Black homeowners. And when the market, the whole housing market collapsed, 2006, 7, 8, or whatever, Black people more than any other group lost homes during that time because they were victims of the predatory lending. They were targeted. And so there is so much that needs to be done. There are programs that are available that we don't know about. And I'm making sure that I make sure that everyone knows all of these opportunities. There's FHA loans that you can get with 100% down. People don't know about that sort of thing. And so I want to make it work for as many people as I can. I can't save the world, but I feel like if I can make life better for 2 or 3 people and they can make life better for 2 or 3 people, we can do a lot of good together.
Absolutely. It's truly a partnership. And another thing I want to introduce to you all is the fact that Sherry is going to be joining our network here at prconnectionsradio.com as the host of the Voices of Humanity show. And for those of you that have been tuning into the network for a while, back in the summer of 2020, we had a lot of interviews that we did. The themes were related to the families of people who had died at the hands of police. And that was a specific theme that we were talking about. I did lots of interviews with family members who had lost people at the hands of the police. And when we created the Voices of Humanity show, we really wanted to talk about different things, different aspects of humanity. And since I've started to work with Sherry on some other things, and because housing is such a critical aspect of our lives. I mean, we all need to have a roof. Everyone should have a roof over their heads, of course.
That's so true.
In a town like Las Vegas, we know that absolutely is not true. But because of the passion that Sherry has, both as a realtor and as an advocate for people having good housing, she's going to come and she's going to start doing interviews. The Voices of Humanity it's going to be related to the housing industry. And Sherry, do you want to talk about some of your thoughts about shows that you would like to do that can help people from a humanitarian perspective with you being a realtor?
You know, Guy, that is, and I do thank you for the opportunity to do that as well. There are so many areas that I'd like to discuss. I'd like to bring in people that can talk about programs for people that may be homeless, people that are facing homelessness. What are those safety nets that we have? What programs are available for people to buy homes if you don't have a lot of money down? What programs are there to help people fix their credit? I also want to talk about social injustice. I was deeply affected by what happened to George Floyd. I still can't watch that video. It sickens me. There's so many places that need a voice, and I want to give a voice to the voiceless. And so I don't want to limit myself to what I talk about, but anything that I think is an interesting topic that will help people, all of us, those are the kinds of events and guests that I would bring on the show. And again, thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Well, Sherry, I just love your passion, and I know where the space that you're coming from, and your integrity. And I feel like with you having this show and us broadcasting it on a regular basis, that there are going to be people out there who really, they're going to resonate with the themes that you're going to be talking about. Being a champion for people, and again, and it ties back to your ethics and what you truly believe in, and how you want to make contributions to humanity. And
Yes.
that was, when we created that show, that's what it was all about, to give a voice to humanity, because there are so many disenfranchised people. Yes, specifically, we're talking about housing because that's what you do, but so many other areas of life, people do feel like they don't have a voice. And you're going to be a conduit for that. You're going to, with this show, I really see you being able to make an impact in being that voice and being able to speak up for people and making change through the things that you talk about.
Well, there are so many people that feel disenfranchised, feel like they have no hope, and they do need voices. They need advocates. They need a place to learn, and we need, as collectively as people, to do better to take care of those that can't take care of themselves. How many hundreds of thousands of people travel here to Las Vegas and lose everything and can't even afford to go home? So I think there will be some great work done. I look forward to every show, and I hope it only grows in the future.
Yeah, so for those of you out there, again, the Voices of Humanity show, and it'll be hosted by Sherry Strothers, is coming. We're going to be doing regular broadcasts, and she, again, has the passion, I think, that will resonate with all of you when we start talking about these topics. She's going to have amazing guests who are going to come on and give you more information to prepare you for all of this. It would be nice, Sherry, if we lived in a world of rainbows and and I wish, and I'm really an idealistic type person.
Yes.
And ideally, yes, we would live in that type of world. But since we don't live in that type of world, I think the next best thing is that we have to have, people out in the field, advocates, looking out for the interests of others. And I just think you're going to do an outstanding job addressing some topics that need to be addressed. And things don't get better if we don't talk about them. We need to uncover some of the injustices in society. And the only reason why things continue to happen a lot of times, Sherry, is just because no one speaks up. No one
Right.
speaks up. Everyone's afraid to speak up. There were people, this isn't about me, but I want to share some of the background of Voices of Humanity. When we made the decision that we were going to create this show, and I was doing these interviews with the families of people who had died at the hands of police, there were people who came to me and said, "Guy, why are you doing that? Metro's going to come after you." Right? There were people who said that. They said, "Why would you take a chance like that?" And I just said, "Hey, when you feel that there needs to be change, if you don't do something about it, you're out of line."
Yeah.
In my opinion, the reason why injustices continue to happen in societies a lot of times is just apathy. People just don't stand up and speak out. And so the powers they just roll over you, right? And so that's why I like the concepts that you want to introduce here, Sherry, because you want to stand up and be an advocate for people.
Well, one thing that we learn in the military is integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking. And so when people are more concerned with themselves than being a voice to help other people, I find that a tragedy. That's why people can do the things that they do, because so many of us are afraid to say something.
Mm-hmm.
put yourself at risk, do something for somebody else. And even if something happens, you probably opened a path for people behind you that'll never know the sacrifice you made. So this voice, this opportunity, I certainly want to bring those voices for people that don't feel they have it.
And the shows are on the way. And thank you again, Sherry, for stopping by. And for those in the audience who might be looking for a great realtor, how can they get in contact with you?
Well, they can find me at 702-812-3273 or Sherry at SchofieldRealty.com. And I will happily help you make your real estate dreams come true.
Well, thanks again for stopping by, Sherry. And again, for all of you out there, stay tuned for the return of the Voices of Humanity show. And the host will be Sherry Strothers. She's going to address a lot of issues that are going to be extremely impactful on our world and our community. And thanks again, Sherry. Looking forward to having you in the fold here at prconnectionsradio.com.
Thanks for having me, Guy.
All right. And thanks all of you for tuning in. Stay tuned for all of our shows here at our network. We've got a lot of new shows that are in the works right now. And we just want to continue to be your voice of new media. See you soon for the next show.